Super Tuesday is part of the Democratic race to decide who will go against Donald Trump in the general election in November. Super Tuesday, possibly the most important day of the Democratic race, is the day that 14 different states across the country finally vote for who the presidential candidate will be for their party. Super Tuesday is one of the biggest voting days because it gives a more accurate assessment of who the people want for their candidate. The states that have gone before this, with the exception of South Carolina, are all very white states and don't truly provide an accurate representation of the country as a whole. Recently, the contenders for the Democratic nomination were Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, billionaires Tom Steyer and Michael Bloomberg, Elizabeth Warren, and the current candidates Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, and Tom Steyer all dropped out of the race before Super Tuesday and endorsed Joe Biden, giving moderate voters someone to rally behind. In order for a candidate to secure the nomination, he or she will have to win 1,991 delegates. The overall winner of Super Tuesday was Joe Biden, who won 10 of the 14 states and 610 delegates, bringing his total to 661. However, thanks to California, Bernie Sanders won 513 delegates that day, bringing his current total to 573. The poor results for Elizabeth Warren and Michael Bloomberg have led to them both dropping out of the race. Michael Bloomberg has endorsed Joe Biden, and as of March 7th, Elizabeth Warren has not endorsed any candidates, but her supporters are likely to support Bernie Sanders given that she was a very progressive candidate. With an anti-establishment style that has changed little over 5 decades, Bernie Sanders has attracted a loyal group of fans. He has run on the promise of bringing a political revolution, promises of things once considered radical: Medicare for all, a $15 minimum wage, and tuition-free public college. Many of these things have now been embraced by many Democrats. Running for president a second time, he is one of the most well-known candidates in the race. He is a self-described democratic socialist. Joe Biden served as vice president in the Obama administration during the passage of the Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden has been campaigning on restoring America to what it was before Trump took office. Biden also speaks passionately about asserting and defending America's role as a leader on the global stage. He firmly believes in the value of bipartisanship and insists on extending overtures to Republicans, even in a moment when many in his own party don't see negotiating partners on the other side of the aisle. According to recent polls, 35% of Democratic voters said they were voting for a candidate that agrees with them on issues, but 65% of them said their vote is dependent on the electability of their candidate when going head-to-head with Trump, which was very, very obvious during the news coverage on Super Tuesday.
Electability has been prized by Democratic voters over and above any policy issue.
The race clearly is about electability.
Yes, this has been about electability since day one.
All they're focused on is electability.
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 Here's a table of recent polls from February 14th to March 5th. Bernie Sanders had a significant lead in the polls until the South Carolina primary. 27% of South Carolina voters are black, and because Joe Biden is much more popular with black voters than Bernie, Biden won by a huge margin with 48% of the vote, while Bernie only had 20%. This marked a turnaround in the presidential race, and Bernie Sanders lost some of his lead in the polls. Since the beginning of March, Biden has accelerated in popularity as candidates dropped out and endorsed him. After Super Tuesday, Joe Biden became significantly more popular candidate, and as of Thursday, March 5th, has a 16% lead on Bernie Sanders.